Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 28th of London, comes to you from a snow-covered London. And we start by looking at the dollar. It rising quite strongly over the last 24 hours. So we're just seeing a spurt there in the dollar that's putting it into bullish mode, and that's activated this upside target. Although we've still got the medium and long-term chart still looking pretty bearish. That means, of course, the euro dollar is sinking. So we're seeing the euro coming off. Dollar is rising against the yen as well, and against sterling, we're seeing sterling falling against the dollar. Against the euro, sterling is rising, and against the Swiss franc, it is rising as well. Against the Australian dollar, it's falling. The Australian dollar moving in sympathy with the US dollar. Bitcoin still holding the $10,000 level and is staying in that bullish territory. So that's recovery is looking well underway. The S&P 500 index had a bit of a fall away yesterday, but still looking pretty strong in the recovery. Nasdaq 100 is down over 1%, so just falling back a bit, but probably just hitting some resistance on that January high. So no big surprises there. Dow Jones index just falling away as well, and the Russell 2000 down 1.5%. So US small caps falling away more strongly. Looking at the S&P 500 future, we're up very slightly this morning, and the Nasdaq E-mini again very slightly, but it's too early to say whether that's going to have an impact on how the US market will open. The FTSE 100 down again this morning, just really struggling in this recovery, and the FTSE 250 also down 0.5%, just struggling to hold on to any gains in the recovery. Xetra DAX, German market, fairly flat, and the CAC 40 in Paris also fairly flat. So just European markets off generally this morning. The Japanese market continuing to look just a little bit vulnerable here. We're sitting in the cloud. Prices are still below the cloud, so not a strong recovery there either. And the Hang Seng falling away overnight over 1.33%. So, and Chinese market, Shanghai down 1%. The Sensex, the Indian market, down 0.5%. So generally speaking, markets falling in sympathy with the US market, and the Australian market down as well. Brent crude coming off a little bit with $66.40, still holding on to its bullish trend, but we do have a downside target here to 64.21, and we are just moving below the cloud on the price. So looking vulnerable for a fall. And the same with WTI. Prices are through the cloud, and we've got a downside target of some 4%. Most softs fairly flat. If you look at cocoa has had a strong rise recently. We're seeing here it's still in that bullish zone, both medium and short term. The long term chart still has work to do. Gold falling away quite significantly on that heavy dollar. I put a gold report out on Twitter yesterday. I'm still long-term bull of gold, but it does look like short-term we are just seeing a sell-off here. That stronger dollar not helping, of course. And silver, similarly, down 0.25%, so that's in bearish territory as well with some downside targets. US 10-year yields sitting at 2.91%. They jumped yesterday, jumping in line with the dollar, puts us back into bullish trend short term, so looking quite strong. We're seeing here that most of the tech companies fell away yesterday in line with the Nasdaq 100. Apple down slightly, but still very near its January high. Amazon, you remember, did break its January high. We talked about that yesterday. It was off slightly. Google down 2%, so fairly big faller there, and Facebook down nearly 2%, having risen strongly the day before. And Microsoft just holding its trend at the moment, so looking pretty good in terms of the long-term, short-term and medium-term trends. Key thing is to watch this US market. Can we get a strong end to the week? That we'll have to wait and see. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.